Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to Stags Be Fixin'. All right, so we're going to get started on building our toddler table. So I got these boards all primed out and ready. You can see my last video was how to prime bare woods, and it just kind of shows me going over priming these boards and a few tips in there. All right, so we just start out with this piece of plywood. It's about 24 by 36 or 32. I kind of forget. But I took my speed square and I marked about a 2 inch indentation, like a line, and that's basically where I'm going to be placing my 1x4s to start out building a frame, so the surface can sit on, and also we can attach the legs to. And I just kind of chose to set the frame at that depth. You know, it's not for any specific reason besides looks and aesthetics, so you can pretty much set it wherever you want. You can set it right on the edge or, an inch in. All right, so starting off by just cutting the pieces for our basic frame underneath the surface. And so just picture framing. I'm actually 45ing these. I had the idea that this bottom frame I'm making is going to be exposed, and then I went ahead and changed my mind after I got it on. I thought the legs being on the outside of the frame looked a little bit better, a little bit more aesthetic. So, all right, so on this table I decided to try out using some pocket screws. I'm a carpenter in the sense of, houses, homes, buildings, trim, crown molding, baseboards. I haven't done a lot of furniture building, so I've never done pocket screws before. I don't build cabinets and things like that. So I figured I'd try them out just for some fun, and I bought this cheap, I think it's like $30 or something on Amazon, this little pocket screw cheapo jig. Just to try it out, see if I liked it, and if I want to continue, I'll just get a better, more expensive one. I think those like Craig jigs or whatever. And now I'm just using some of the pocket holes that I made to attach this bottom frame. I'm actually going to go ahead and attach it from the top as well with a couple extra screws. So this is my bottom frame install using pocket screws. And like I said, I 45'd it. If I had to do it again, I'd go back and just do straight cuts because I'm going to cover over the end anyways. And also it's a kid's table, so, we don't want sharp edges. We want nice rounded edges so little kids don't crack their head or something on it, right? So
it looks like a point table.
Oh, wow.
It's for me.
Yep, she guessed what it was. I told her it was a surprise, and I'm building a surprise for her. But my kid's pretty sharp, so she guessed what it was as soon as I started putting it together. All right, so we are continuing along and installing our bottom support frame. All right, so we're popping the last piece in here, and then we're going to move on to building the legs. Also on these, I had the thought to use trim screws. I like using trim screws, and so I'm also just popping a few trim screws into the face of the 45s. If I had to do this table again, I would probably use a combination with my nail gun. Combination of nails and screws. At least to, sometimes a few of the pieces are a little tough to hold in place with a nail gun. It would be a little bit easier just to pop a quick nail in there before I added some screws to it. So if not for structural, at least for ease of building, I would grab my nail gun out and fire that up and use it in unison with these trim screws. But I really like trim screws. They aren't really cost effective. A small little box is going to be like $10. But I like using them, and for a small project like this, it's not that big of a deal. And they are easy. They go right in. The heads don't strip. And I did pre-drill a few of the holes on here, but for the most part, I could just pop these trim screws right in, like right here. I'm just driving a trim screw. So I'm just taking the trim screw right here, and I'm just putting them in from the top down into the bottom frame. So I have the frame secured with pocket holes up into the bottom of this surface, and now I'm just taking trim screws and I'm setting a few trim screws on the top just to make sure it stays together. I mean, it's going to be a kid's table, not going to be supporting any significant amount of weight. Everything's going to be maybe up to a pound on it. But I just want to make sure nothing moves that much. We're going to be doing some caulking on the edge, and I want to kind of hold this in place as much as I can. All right, so that's all finished up, and now we're moving on to the legs. And I had the thought of just making the legs into an L shape. I figured that would give much better support than just having a single 1x4 for each leg. So I just cut 8 pieces and put them in an L shape, screw them together, and then attach the legs after that. So yeah, I think I cut these legs at about 24 inches. I didn't really give a ton of pre-planning to this. I just basically scribbled a few notes on a notebook and measured my daughter's height. So I'm kind of doing it custom to her height, and I'm just making the table accordingly. So I believe I cut all these they're around 24 inches. You can make them as long or short as you want. If I had to go back and make another table, I think I would actually, make some legs that were at more of an angle. Probably use a 2x4 or even a 4x4, depending on, how I want it to look as far as aesthetics. You kind of want to make these as indestructible as you can, right? I don't want to risk anybody tipping it over on themselves. And I'm pretty happy with the table. I mean, it's stable. It's not going to flip easy unless somebody tries to flip it over, just like any table. But a little bit more of an angle I think would be better. So now I'm just kind of toying with how I want to attach the legs. You can see I'm putting it on the inside here. And that was my original thought. 45 these ends, and then stick the table legs on the inside. And then I decided, hey, you know what? I think it looks a little bit better on the outside as far as looks, and I figured, it's not going to hurt putting these legs more towards the outside edge as opposed to the inside, just to give more basic support for the table, so wide as possible. Okay, so we got all the legs cut, and now we are trying to screw 2 pieces together on the end, basically making an L shape with these 1x4s. And to be honest, it was kind of a struggle. Like I said, if I had a chance to go ahead and rebuild this table, and I'll probably build another one, but if I had a chance to rebuild this, I would use in unison with a nail gun, because I think I could line these 2 edges up and pop a nail in there, and then I'll have everything ready and set to pop these screws through. Another way it might have been easier would be to pre-drill. You could drill right through the board and into the bottom board, and that would help guide my screw through. But what I did was I just laid them out and I set a screw, then I tried to line it up nice and tight, and I just kept my finger on the seam where they connect to make sure that was even, and then drilled it, popped a screw right through, and that seemed to do the trick. And then I ended up just putting around 4 to 5 screws along the edge. So, 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, and 2 through the middle, 2 to 3 through the middle, depending on the gap and if I need to get a little bit tighter. Alright, so we're just attaching the legs now. We have all the L-shaped legs built, and now we're just going to attach them to the table. So I'm basically just lining them up, and I think I put 2 screws on each leg, or each side of the leg, so each leg is going to have a total of 4 screws at I put them around a 45-degree angle, so it not only goes through the table, but it also kind of goes at an up angle. I figured that would be a little bit better and a little bit stronger. And also, in addition to attaching through the face of the leg into the frame, I decided, I'm going to pop a couple more screws from the surface down into the legs we attach. So I think I'm just putting one on each end here. And you can't go wrong, I think, putting a few more screws just to make sure. These small scale projects are a little new to me, and I'm probably doing some overkill as far as how much I'm attaching, but I figure it can't hurt. So here I'm just taking a combination square and just kind of showing you guys, look, there's the leg underneath. Here's kind of where you need to put your screw. You split the difference, so you're trying to get that screw as much into the middle as possible. The last thing you want is a blowout. You're screwing from the top down, and it blows out and pushes a little piece of wood out, and then you have bigger problems and more things to fix. So get that screw nice and straight, and you want it to go straight down into that leg and make sure it doesn't blow out the side when it goes through. And also I wanted to mention, in addition to the two screws going at a 45-degree angle into the bottom frame, I put one straight into the face to attach to the frame as well, and then I also put a couple screws on the back side so it goes from the frame into the face. But I made sure I used screws that weren't too long, so of course it didn't pop through. Alright, so now we are on to our 1x2s, and basically I'm just making a border to go around the edge of the table. It is going to be a child's, a toddler's play table, and the reason I'm building it is for my daughter, and she loves her little characters and to put things on a table and line them up. Also, I'm going to be probably painting a little section for a chalkboard. They have chalkboard paint, and you can basically make a chalkboard out of it. And I want to make sure, if there's pieces of chalk up there, that it could sit on the table and not fall off, and the chalk will always be there. So that's basically the idea behind the 1x2s. And also, I think it'll, just finish it out a little bit nicer. This is plywood, so the edge isn't that finished. And also, this will give me an opportunity to show you guys how to do a little bit extra caulking and do some fine finish caulking into these details. So I'm just sticking these 1x2s on here. And this is another example of where I wish I would have used a nail gun. It would have been much easier just to pop a nail in and then take my screws down to finish it off. But at the same time, it was pretty manageable. So, there's a bottom edge to the 1x2s and a bottom edge to the surface, and I just basically want to make sure those two things were lined up. So you can see while I'm installing these 1x2s, I'm just kind of holding my thumb on the bottom to make sure that edge is even, and that's what I'm looking for. Went around and screwed the screws in to attach to the surface. Okay, so after I got the border all cut and installed, I'm just going around and I'm adding one or two screws to the edge or to the corners to attach the corners together, just to give it a little bit more strength and alleviate any worry about separation. Alright, so the table is pretty much built, and now we're just taking a router and going around all the edges and corners and just kind of finishing them off, making them look a little bit nicer, and also taking the sharpness off any edges or corners as well. This part just shows me doing the top section here, but I go ahead and take this router down the legs as well. So I did 1, 2, 3 sides of the legs as well, just to make it look a little bit better, a little more presentable. And that's pretty much it with the build. Stay tuned, we're going to be doing a lot of prep and caulk. I used all these screws, and so we're going to be prepping the screw holes and doing a lot of caulking on the inside of the table as well as the outside here. Where any boards line up, we're going to go ahead and throw some caulking on there. And then we're going to be painting this. So it's for my daughter. And I have the idea of going maybe pink on the legs and maybe white or black. Maybe pink and black for the bottom section. And then maybe I can do the top of the table in like a nice white. Maybe we can finish out the border with pink or something. So I'm still kind of brainstorming on colors. And new video will be coming soon on the paint. Thanks for watching, guys.